Hello and welcome to talotics video where I'm going to look at an application I've written called Chatterscan. Now I wrote Chatterscan because I was spending way too much time on Twitter. If you go through Twitter on a little iOS app or an Android app, you only get to see one or two tweets at a time, so scanning through this is really slow. Then I found that doing Twitter on the desktop, while faster, I was still getting a lot of chatter in that Twitter feed, just a lot of stuff that people are tweeting that's adding no value. Then I have to create lists, then move people between. Instead, what I did is I created a very simple Twitter client that is pretty opinionated on what it shows. So let's have a quick look. This application, you can find it on chatterscan.com. It doesn't store any of your personal details. You don't have to create an account. What I do is I access the application. Then if I'm logged in to Twitter already, it will just like this, authorize. Or what I can do is I can log out here and choose the Twitter profile that I want. So I'm going to log in as my talotics profile, authorize the application, and all of that OAuth stuff was on Twitter, right? My app doesn't know anything about your Twitter ID. It just says, right, Twitter is now authorizing you to access this person's account. It doesn't post anything. All it does is read your feed. And you can see what it's done here is it's made a request to the Twitter API using my home feed. It's found 56 posts in there and it's shown me 51. And the reason it's shown me 51 is because I've said only to show posts with links. I can configure it to show posts that don't have links in there. I can configure it to show retweets if I want. It doesn't have any retweets in there. What I find with my marketing feed is that most of the content is value, right? It's people promoting links. It's people curating content for other people, which is you tend to see in marketing. If I go into my consultancy feed, let me do that. So at this point, I will show you how to move between accounts, because I assume that if you're doing marketing, you have multiple Twitter accounts. So I click on Chatterscan at the top here, click access the application. I'm going to log out, and then I will log in as my consultancy Twitter feed. This is my main Twitter feed where I do most of my work. I can't remember how many followers I've got on this, 4,500, something like that. And I follow about 600 or 700 people, so my feed gets pretty cluttered up. So from this, it's asked for 55, it's only seen 55, it's asked for 100 posts, 55 have come back because I've said don't show me any retweets. Out of that, only 43 of them have links in there. So if I was interested in this feed here, because I don't take anything away from Twitter, all we're doing in this app is showing feeds. I can then go, this feed looks interesting, Power Everyday model with projections, let's have a look at that. Click view tweet and it will take me off to Twitter. I don't try and recreate any Twitter functionality at all. All I'm doing is showing a list of stuff. If I'm interested in that, then, or I want to curate this content, I can either go off to the main page, I could retweet it from here, or I can schedule it using commune.it or buffer or whatever else you're doing to retweet that at a later date. So I find this very useful for curating content that is individual and unique from the people that are following. When I want to do engagement work, I will either log into Twitter directly, or I'll use something like Communit to filter the feeds even further. But this is about getting value out of Twitter as fast as I can, finding the content to curate from my feed list. So what I can do here is, if I do next page, it will go to the next set of tweets in my home feed. And you can see up here that it hasn't passed in the filter details. There's nothing about the list or my user ID up here, because I'm trying to make this so that none of your personal detail filters through into my Google Analytics. I do filter anything out in Google Analytics anyway, but I just want to make sure as minimal as possible information is coming back, because I don't want your personal information. So this is now showing me on the next page. Again, I've asked for 100 tweets. It's given me back 51, so 49 of them were retweets, which I'm not interested in at this point, and it's showing me 45 of them because only 45 of them have got links. Now if I'm interested, what I can do is I can tell it to only show retweets. That's what this button does. and then it will show me that there's only retweets in there. I could set it to show me the replies, to not only show retweets. So I can see that actually a lot of that stuff was replies. Out of all the stuff that I asked for, a lot of it was actually replies. So I can filter my Twitter feed in different ways to try and get information on it. Now, limitations for this are the Twitter rate limiting API. If I do a lot of filtering here, then I will hit a rate limit because your home feed can only have 15 requests per 15 minutes. If I use the list views, if I choose a list, then I won't hit the rate limit as quickly because I think you get 150, 180 requests in 15 minutes using this. Again, these limits are just set by Twitter. This is just using the Twitter API to make it easier to access. Now, I use this pretty much all the time now for looking for content in my home feed that I can curate and pass on to other people. If I'm just looking to scan content to see what's new out there, what new articles people are promoting, I use this. I don't use the Twitter client as much anymore now that I've got this, because it just makes my life so much faster. And we know that when we're working with Twitter, it can consume so much of your time. And I use this to avoid it. So that's just a quick intro to Chatterscan. If you go off to chatterscan.com, click access the application here, use the Twitter workflow to authenticate yourself and authorize the application to read your Twitter feed and your lists, then give it a shot. It might help speed up your Twitter workflow. I find this unbelievably useful, and I wrote it. But I wrote it for me because this is what I needed to help me do my Twitter curation.